being here. We talked about this last week sometime when you were addressing during the press conference the whole Ja Morant situation. And all of us up here understood why you want to wait until the finals are over to really address that. What I want to ask is, when you consider the kind of decision that you're expected to hand down, it doesn't seem like it's going to be just about Ja Morant. You want to make sure to send a message to the league itself. There's certain things that will and will not be tolerated. Can you speak to that at all?
Well, I think that's right, but I want to be careful only in that my job is to measure that individual's conduct in that moment, and I get a little nervous when people talk about sending a message, because sometimes it implies you may not are being fair to that individual player. But there's no question in this league that there's something called conduct detrimental in the league, and it's not just conduct that may be negative. We want to portray a positive image in terms of our players in this league. So that's, of course, something I take into account.
Adam, I want to widen this out, literally, and just ask you about with international players comprising the last 5 MVPs in the league, 4 of the 5 players first team all-league this year, a phenom from France being the overall #1 pick. I've been thinking it's a natural for the league to have an international team versus the United States for All-Star Weekend. That's the centerpiece for an All-Star game instead of East-West shirt skins, LeBron, KD, whatever. An international team versus the United States. But there seems to be some reluctance or resistance. Is that true, and why?
The NBA Ryder Cup. So the answer is, as you know, Mike, it's not a new idea. And when it's come up historically, we thought there'd be such an imbalance. Not necessarily because of the competition on the floor, but in fairness to the players. Because if even now it continues to grow, where more than 25% of our players are born outside the United States. So if you're picking from one pool of 25% and the other pool from 75%, it might not be fair. But when it came up again this year at the competition committee, people said, well, maybe we'll figure out a way to deal with that. You'll select the All-Star team if you need to add a few international players to even out the team. So I agree with you. I think it would be incredibly exciting. We obviously aren't going to be doing it for this year going into Indianapolis for the All-Star game, because we got to talk to the Players Association about it. But I think as this game becomes more global, as you said, with yet another international MVP this year that we're going to see tonight, that we should be looking at that, and I think there'd be enormous excitement from the fans, and I think the players would really be into it as well.
You haven't ruled it out, just the opposite.
No, and in fact, we're ruling it back in.
Good.
Oh, wow. You've done a great job of growing the game globally, making decisions like the play-in, as we talked about with the Miami Heat. Are you now considering expanding teams in the NBA?
You know, it's come up many times. What we said a few years ago was we had to negotiate a new collective bargaining agreement, which we've done. It hasn't been finally inked yet. We're just finishing it up, but we have an agreement in principle, and then we'll have labor peace through 2030. So that's really exciting. The other thing I said we need to get done, and this affects you guys, is 2 new media deals. And once we got those media deals done, then we'd know essentially what our future was, our main expenses, our main revenues. At that point, I'm pretty sure we're going to turn back to expansion. It's been a long time since we expanded. There's a bunch of great markets in the U.S., frankly, and other markets in Canada have shown interest as well. Mexico City has shown interest. So I think it's a natural part of any organization to grow over time. And clearly, the sport is growing. In the United States, it's growing globally. So not at this moment, but we will look to expansion in the future.
So, Adam, obviously we look at players and we look at player salaries. This is not the old days. They're making pretty good salaries. There's no doubt about that. But guess what? They're not the only ones anymore. Monty Williams signs a 6-year deal for nearly $80 million. I want to know, how does Commissioner Silver feel about that and what that's going to do for the coaching market out there? Because if he got that amount of money, I'm quite sure Monty Williams would be the first to say he's very, very happy that Steve Kerr and others are clearly going to get as much, if not more, down the line.
So Stephen A., when you got your new deal, did it reset the market for announcers on ESPN?
I don't know.
No, look, there's a marketplace for talent. You know, whether frankly it's announcers or coaches or general managers, and that's how it works in the league. The players' salaries are collectively bargained. They chose to form a union and negotiate collectively. The coaches negotiate individually, with the exception of some pension benefits. So we accept that. The teams are competing for their talent, and I think coaches have enormous leverage, especially the best coaches in the league. And so I'm sure a lot of teams and other coaches are paying attention.
Thank you for watching ESPN on YouTube. For live streaming sports and premium content, subscribe to ESPN+.